It is Wednesday, my dudes, and time for an old man yapping. One of the things that I've been kind of sitting around thinking about all week is development methodologies and how development gets done. And one of the things that I say every so often that gets a little bit of attention is that software development is the art of debugging nothing, because that's how I work. You hear all of these people talk about test-driven development and behavior-driven development and story-driven development and continuous delivery and continuous, continuous integration. Yeah, you've got this whole, you've got this whole series of people talking about things that they do. And continuous delivery is close to what I do. Because essentially what I do is I regard anything that means my software can't ship now as a bug. And every bug should be reported, every bug should be addressed, every bug should be handled in some way. And that happens all the way from the beginning, all the way at the beginning of any project. The first thing I'm doing is always saying, okay, well, the first bug is I don't have a project. And you create a new project, and that new project can typically build and run, and it has a name, and you can put icons on it, you can do all kinds of shit. And then, like, whatever you do with it, you take that and you go, well, this isn't the final project. It's not done. That's a bug. Not being done is a bug. If it's not done, then there's a bug and you need to fix the bug. But the bug needs to be something that you can actually address. Like you have to say, this is what the software has to do first. It has to put up a splash screen. It has to put up a splash screen that identifies the program, identifies the author, identifies the studio, blah, 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 blah. Program does not put up a splash screen. Okay. That's a bug that you can address. I started the program. It didn't put up the splash screen. We need it to put up the splash screen. So you put up a splash screen. And once you write the code to put up a splash screen, you can issue additional bugs on that. It doesn't have the right information on it. Doesn't have the right graphic on it. Doesn't have any graphic on it. It's the wrong size. Whatever. But those are things you can issue bugs on. And it's the same way for every other feature. You go, okay, well, the software has no main menu. Okay, add a main menu. And all of these things are just, you look at the program and you say, what's wrong with it? Okay, well, what do I want to do? Do it. I can't. Why not? What is missing that you can't do it? That's the bug. You need to add the thing that lets you do what you want to do. Once you've added the thing that lets you do what you want to do, then you can start complaining that it doesn't work. You start complaining that it doesn't do it right, that it doesn't do it fast enough, that it doesn't do it well enough, that you don't have enough options. You have more and more stuff that you can write bugs on until the feature is more or less complete. But all of this is geared toward getting your software to a state where it's shippable, where you can actually hand it to somebody and say, this is my software that does the thing. And it does, in fact, do the thing. Until you do that, all you're doing is just reporting bugs against an incomplete project. And this process it's just how I always think about software. Because if you look at the state of Yandere survivors right now, there are a number of bugs. It's the enemies can't actually damage you. You can't actually damage the enemies. You can't aim your gun. There's no cool particle effect on the gun. There's no good graphic for the gun. There are all kinds of bugs in this. And all of these are written down in a list, and until I actually get it to a point that I'm like, okay, this is runnable and playable, I can ship this and people can use it. Until it gets to that point, I don't open an actual issues database. I just make a list of all the shit that's wrong, and I go through and I knock stuff off the list, bit by bit. And a lot of these things take a long time. Like, I'm kind of hung up right now on the performance of spawners, because I need to spawn enemies that will converge on the player. I can spawn enemies, I can make them converge on the player, but the numbers are kind of an issue, and the behavior is kind of an issue. And I have some ideas around how I want these enemies to behave that that I haven't implemented yet, and that I haven't tested yet. I haven't really figured out, this is absolutely how I want them to behave, this is absolutely how I want them to work. Even where I have a basic idea of what I want them to do, I don't have the specifics. Like, I don't want them to get too close to one another, but I don't want them to be too far away from one another either. I want the closeness of the enemies to depend on the number of enemies on the screen. I want them to spread out so it feels like you're surrounded at all times, but I want them to bunch up as there are more of them so I can fit more of them on the screen. And then, of course, there's the question of, how do you fit enough of them on the screen? Well, if you keep them separated a little bit, it kind of limits the number you can put on the screen. And it should also make smaller amounts of enemies feel like larger amounts of enemies. That's kind of the concept that I'm working with now. And I'm not sure how well that's going to work out, but it is like kind of how I'm thinking about it. But everything that needs to happen, I have written down on an issues list, and I'm treating it like a bug. It needs to be assigned to somebody, and that somebody is me, because I'm the only person working on it. And it needs to have a priority and a severity and all of these things assigned. And you have to go, okay, where does this sit on our priorities list? How bad is it if we don't do this? And as I'm going through putting this stuff together, a lot of stuff is getting demoted, and I'm going, I don't need that right now. I don't need a main menu right now. I don't need a settings menu. I don't need music. I don't need sound effects. I need the initial core behavior. Then I can start worrying about sound effects and music and all of that sort of stuff. And it's a question of priorities. And if you get into the habit of doing that with your software, I've found that you can think about it in a much more organized fashion, and you can get stuff done more effectively. Not necessarily more efficiently, because you've got this additional step in there of managing your issue list, but more effectively because you can focus on the thing that's actually important. You can actually keep those priorities. And it sort of offloads some of the executive function of trying to manage a software project onto the issues database instead of having to keep the state in your head all the time. I really wish my voice wasn't completely fucked right now. I really wish my house wasn't leaking, but, you know, shit is what it is. And, yeah, that's basically what I had to say today was, treat everything your project needs to do as a bug until it's doing it. And when all the bugs are gone, or at least when enough of the bugs are gone, then you can ship it. And I don't branch. I pretty much, I do this thing where I pull from master, check out whatever I'm working on, and then I check it in before I leave my desk. Like if you got to go to a meeting, if you got to go to a lunch, anything like that. And I'm thinking in terms of working in an office, not in terms of working from home like I'm doing now. But if you're working with a team and you're working out of a source code database, then you need to pull frequently and you need to check in frequently. And at any point when you check in, your code should build, your code should run, it shouldn't break anything. You should always leave your code in that state. If you can't leave your code in that state, well, you're stuck at your desk until you put it in that state. And you should test it before you actually check in. But that should be happening all the time anyway. And I don't know if that's compatible with the way a lot of people work. A lot of people work on something and they just kind of like hack around this broken piece of shit for a really long time until everything works. And I tend to work on small pieces and go, let's get this small piece working. Let's get this small piece working. Let's get this small piece working. And because I kind of tend to work in a bottom-up fashion, then all of the little pieces that I've got working, they're not connected up to the piece that needs to call them anyway. That connection isn't there. They're just kind of floating out in the ether like an island. But anyway, that's the way I do it. Report bugs, fix bugs. And I don't know, it's kind of QA centric because that's where I've focused most of my career is on QA. Because QA is an area that we need to focus and that we don't focus and that isn't really appreciated and that doesn't really get respect. And we don't put people in there that actually know what they're doing. So if you have somebody who knows what they're doing and goes, no, put me in there. I know what I'm doing. Put me in there. I can do a good job. And they're always like, why? Why do you want to be in QA instead of a dev? Because it's important. It's an important job. And nobody wants to do it. So the people in there doing it are the people who don't have a choice. And those people aren't fucking qualified. You need to get somebody that's qualified down there because you can take unqualified people and you can manage them into a qualified unit. It's fairly simple. All you have to do is like tell them the stuff that they don't know. They'll learn it. And it's useful. The problem is that when you're doing that in QA, they tend to migrate up and go into development because they never wanted to be in QA in the first place. So you're constantly training newbies. But that's okay. I don't mind training newbies. Anyway, that's what I had to say. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And, okay, bye.